Thank you for joining me for this episode. Today, we are joined by Dr. Thanh Mai, and we're going to be talking about Treehouse eyes and artificial intelligence in myopia on the Myopia podcast.
Welcome to the Myopia Podcast, where we give you the latest myopia research, clinical topics, and industry insights. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all awesome myopia content. And now to our host, a massive myopia manager himself, Dr. David Kading.
Myopia management is one of the fastest growing areas in eye care, but it takes the right playbook to make it work. And that's why I work with Treehouse Eyes. They provide the training, ongoing support, marketing, and tools to help independent optometrists succeed. If you're passionate about myopia management, visit growmymyopiapractice.com to learn more. Thanks again for joining us. I'm excited to be here with my good friend Ton. We were on the podcast one other time. You've joined me, but it's been too long since we've had you back, and it's awesome to have you. A lot has changed in the last year and a half or so since we did chat. So thanks for being on the podcast. What's new with you?
Hey man, well first of all, thanks for having me back. Has it been a year and a half? Was that actually it, the last one?
It
Something like that?
somewhere in there. I made that number up, but I think that's about how long it's been.
Because if you said it happened like 3 months ago, I would have believed you. It's just like, gosh, like time flies and it's
I
crazy.
know.
We're talking like 2025. But yeah, just like super excited to be back on and happy to share insights to help the listeners hopefully treat more
Yeah.
kids. That's the bottom line.
So if people don't know you, you're a clinician at heart. You've got several practices that you're an owner in and that you're running. And so you are dealing with the everyday dollars and cents in your practice. You're a clinician at heart. You see patients and have seen patients for a really long time. But your most recent role is coming on with Treehouse Eyes in a more impactful role. Tell me a little bit about your decision to do that, and because that's an industry step. Like you're taking a step into the industry role where you're not in dealing with just your practice and so forth. So how did that come about? And tell us about the role that you're doing.
Yeah, good question. So I am the, visionary slash CEO of four practices in Southern California. But then this, Treehouse Eyes opportunity came up. And the conversation I had with my wife was, hey, like, I'm not that busy. Why don't I just like, hop into the industry and work a little bit harder? And the conversation actually went over pretty well because luckily the practice ran without me, thanks to a good team. But the reason why I did it, this sounds super corny, but I'm going to say it anyways. Got to help more kids. We have to help more kids. I think we do not have a science problem, like in terms of we have things we can do to help more kids. So it's not a question of the science and R&D and all that stuff. It's just that only 3% of the kids get anything because the doctors honestly don't talk about it, and
Hmm.
we have a terrible time with execution. And Triage Eyes gave me a bigger a platform to kind of pull the crank on helping more doctors actually get the execution down. So that's why I dove in and decided to join
Yep.
the cause.
Yeah.
And
So when
yeah,
I interviewed you before, I knew you were part of Treehouse. Um, I don't think I was Treehouse yet. And then like when I became part of Treehouse and then reflected back of the conversation that you and I had had, a lot of the ideas that I thought that you had that were really, really good were your refinement of the Treehouse programs and protocols and ideas that they had. And so it was just, and that's what everybody is able to do is they're able to take something that Treehouse presents and then make it better and make it fit into their practice. And that's where you were. I mean, for example, the reward system of keeping the
mhm.
kids engaged and those sort of things. You can check back to Tan's past episode where we talk a lot about that. Um, but what have you kind of learned? What is meeting expectation of what you thought this role would be,
Sure.
and what is, different than you thought it would be?
Yeah, one of the roles the role is called, my role is innovation. So one thing that we're really looking into right now, and I'm geeking out about it, is getting more artificial intelligence into myopia. It's a big
Hmm.
topic, and we are actually literally in the middle of a data project right now with some partners to extract literally millions of data points across our EMRs, clinical, every kid's axial length, the eye color, IOP, doesn't matter, everything in there, right? Because there might be more than just refractive error and axial length. It could be even the child's
Hmm.
weight, anything in the chart where we mentioned their diet. It could be how clear the cornea is, or, the CD ratios. We have millions and millions of data points, and we've crawled millions of data points with our practices at Treehouse Eyes. And we're trying to have AI crunches to come up with more models in terms of what to predict, whether or not we can predict myopia from happening, what we can do about it, that's evidence-based and data-driven in terms of what's the best treatment for X, Y, Z, for X kid versus Y kid. And that to me is one of the next steps. It's getting data, which is worth its weight in gold, and using artificial intelligence to kind of look at the data and present and basically make better medicine. And that's
Hmm.
one of dozens of projects I've done at Treehouse Eyes, but that's one of the ones that sticks out.
Yeah. One of the things that you did that I appreciated, and I am surprised that more people are not doing this, and this has been a press release that Treehouse launched it, so I'm not sharing any of our family secrets,
Right.
is the protocol that we have and how you've incorporated that into its own GPT. So those of us who are members of Treehouse can go in and better analyze that. Tell us, you can articulate it a little bit better than I can. So share with us that GPT that you were instrumental in building.
Yeah, it's driven by the CAMP study, which has hundreds of kids enrolled, where we were looking at essentially based on a child's risk factors. So let's say their age, race, gender, ethnicity, lifestyle, and their current refractive error, axial length, refractive error. Like, what should you do based on that data? And it would say, okay, well, based on crunching all that stuff, thank you for giving me that information. You should probably do A. Now, of course, with a caveat is you're still the doctor, you're still in charge. This is not us telling what to do.
Right, right.
Get in trouble. And then guess what? The kid comes back in 7 months later. Axial length grew by 0.17 millimeters. Hey, what do I do now? Stay the course? Make a
Hmm.
change? And it kind of helps you guide and make the decisions. And you can talk to it just like you talk to a person. That's the beauty
Hmm.
of these models. You don't have to necessarily just be on a computer. You can just talk to it on your phone and it will actually talk to you like,
Right.
it just needs help.
Yeah. I think one of the things as clinicians that we like to do is we develop these relative standards, right? So, IOP larger than 24, we're nervous about, CD ratio of zero point 0.5, we're thinking something's weird, right?
Right.
And one of the things that we continue to learn is that an axial length change of this amount is safe for a certain age, but is harmful for another age. And if that patient is a higher myope or a lower myope, and they're having that refractive error, and they're having that axial length change, and they're a certain age, all those compounding factors kind of go into it. And so it doesn't really work for us as clinicians to necessarily have a point 0.1 change over the course of a year is dangerous, right?
Right.
It is for certain ages, but not
Right.
for everybody. So these types of things with AI allow us to, put all of that data in there and then just have a conversation. I really think that's, 5 years from now, people that are graduating optometry school, that's going to be standard for them, where it's, new. And so I think it was pretty novel that you created that. And I think more of us need to be doing that in our clinical care even now.
Agreed 100%. Like you and I, we have the curse of knowing things. And the curse of knowing is that, we kind of already know what we should do with the next myopia patient, depending on their axial length growth, their refractive error changes, our conversation with the patients. When we've done it over 1,000 times, we kind of are in a groove. But the curse of knowing is that we forget that, it's like when I was in school, when I was just learning about glaucoma, and I was like, what am I using, latanoprost or travotan? Like, what am I doing? Like, all those little nuances I don't get as a newbie.
Hmm.
And so most doctors are still newbies.
Hmm.
And so the GPT and AI is another step in the right direction to make the newbie feel like, okay, I've got some help. I got like a mentor, a virtual mentor that I can use to help me out in case I am stuck and I'm not exactly sure. And I don't want to
Yeah.
feel silly asking a group of doctors that I don't know, for instance. Not that they should have that
Hmm.
feeling, ask away, but some do, of course.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the innovations I think also with your role that I've seen is that community, right? And if you're not part of Treehouse Eyes, there's other communities that are available, whether it's the Academy of the Academy, or you have a group of doctors locally, or, whatever it may be, a group of doctors you met at Vision by Design or something like that. And that's one of the things. What does that yield or taught you as you're leading a group of specialists in myopia management with the Treehouse group? How has that changed things, made you a better clinician, come up with different ideas and so forth? Have you taken anything away different from being a member of that group to now kind of leading that group in the innovation side?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the best things you can do in any discipline, and it doesn't matter if you're learning how to play pickleball better or learning how to grow your myopia practice, is when you join like a tribe. You join a tribe and you share ideas and you geek out about it and you talk about the same things all the time and you live and breathe it.
Hmm.
And what happens when you do that is I've learned to change the way I eat from managing staff, who I decide like is the perfect myopia counselor, how to price things, how to present things. Everything that we talk about constantly is being refined and getting better every day. Like another thing coming up is spectacle lenses for myopia.
Hmm.
We're gonna have a game plan that's gonna be a lot of doctors, the glass is gonna come out and they're gonna be scrambling once the patient walks in and they go, hey, I saw this advertisement on TV for this new myopia lens. And then the doctor's gonna be like, yeah, you can get that pair of glasses. Like they're not gonna be really as organized as we are at Treehouse Eyes, for instance, because we're gonna have a playbook ready. We're gonna have the pricing models set up. We're gonna have the staff training. The opticians know how to line things up, dot it correctly, things like that. All those things are gonna be addressed on the front end. And being part of a tribe lets you be on the cutting edge. And so, yeah, those are just another example of things I've learned by being
Big
part of a
things.
group.
Yeah. What else have you learned as you become part of, conversations that have happened across continents and across time zones, and, things that you've been managing myopia for, decades, not too many decades, but for a while. And
Sure.
you're not new to this, but what are some things that have kind of delighted you that you've learned, or, spectacles being a prime example of that, right? Some
Yeah.
of our colleagues elsewhere have taught you, but what else? What are you learning?
Yeah, the spectacle ones was a prime example, similar to like, Epion cross-linking. Like when you see things done outside of the country and they're doing it with success before it's come here, you always take note and you're always quicker to adopt it. Sometimes you might, push the envelope a little bit and ask the FDA for permission to do things even here because you can't do it broadly elsewhere. Um, but I'd say other things I've learned just by, getting away from the N equals one. So a lot of doctors they'll say, "Yeah, Ton, like you got that sounds good, but it doesn't work for my practice because I'm in rural Kentucky or I'm in Indiana and I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, wherever, right? And you're in Southern California, Ton. And what I've learned after talking to hundreds of doctors is that most mom and dads in every demographic are not that different.
Hmm.
They want the same things, and the big one is price. Yeah, a lot of doctors are very price conscious of how they present myopia management, for whatever reason. Insecurity we inherited in optometry school somehow, for many of us. But what I've learned is that the demand and the price, it's pretty inelastic. So
Yeah.
so that's the issue that it comes up again and again when I talk to a lot of doctors. They just feel like in their demographic it's higher or lower, but it's actually not true. And we have just so many different demographics that low and high that price doesn't matter. And so that's a
Yeah.
lesson I've learned.
Yeah, interestingly, have learned that too, is I've even gone and lectured across the world, is there'll be two doctors who practice relatively close together, and one of them will have a large daily disposable practice, and the other one will be like, patients can't afford it here, right? And it
Yeah.
was like literally, you practice right next door to this other guy,
Yeah,
or this gal over here, she's doing it successfully, and why can't you? And it's like, oh, my patients, and it's like, no. You just need to know how to present it. You need to, be open to this growth mindset of maybe there's a different way of doing it and I could do it better if I was just open to change, right?
that's right. The number one secret to getting there is the person that they need to sell is not in the chair. The person they need to sell and they haven't done a good job yet is the person staring right back at them every morning when they look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
They haven't convinced that person that they're the
Right.
best, that they're good enough and worthy enough yet. But once
Right.
they do, they've
Yeah.
they've unlocked it.
Yeah, you said this at the beginning of the discussion is that and I have this as part of almost every myopia lecture that I do is the greatest need that we have today is not better treatments or better diagnosis, but the greatest need that we have is to admit that this is a disease. Because once you say it's a disease, you can't
Yep.
stop from treating it. And so you haven't convinced that person in the mirror and prior to joining Treehouse, and I don't know if you still are doing this, but I know you did some consulting with practitioners kind of on a one-on-one basis, and I've done that too.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's the thing that we've learned is I think that we learned that people want to do more myopia management, but they want to still consider it an elective thing that people can choose or choose not to do.
Mhm.
And you and I probably would both agree that we've never once seen a practice successful with myopia management when they approach it that way. It's that mindset shift that goes into it. What have one of the other things that I've seen with your role with Treehouse is that you're bringing in new offices all the time and that you're helpful in getting them up and going. And these are people who maybe have been dabbling in the past.
Right.
Share an example, not with the specific name of instances where you've seen practitioners go from dabbling to all in and they're succeeding at it. And what are the changes that they are making? Because there are some of our listeners who they're dabbling and they want to do more, but they're kind of like, what is that tipping point? What is that thing that changes it? And you've been able to see people who are like, I'm going to make the investment. I'm going to go in with Treehouse. I'm going to be part of this community. What is it that shifts for them?
Yeah, the ones that grow extremely fast. Like I was talking to an office this there was an office this I was looking at the numbers this month and they tracked their metrics weekly and they did $52,000 in myopia in 1 week last week. And I was like, oh, that's better than my practice. And so they're on track to
Wow.
just like crush it, right? So I was like, well, what changed for you, right? And because it's not a practice that's necessarily in the best demographic for myopia. And so the thing that changed for them is for that practice, they made it their one thing. So a lot of practices, they've got five different things. This practice
Hmm.
made it their one thing. And when you make it your one thing, you only can think about it, and that's all you do. So one of my favorite sayings is volume negates luck. And so I'll give you an example. This is the tipping point
Hmm.
where a doctor changes from doing zero myopia management to doing, 50,000 in 1 week, right? Or over 100,000 in 1 month. The tipping point is this. When I have a weekly meeting with my team, we have a scorecard. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of my practice. How about this? So not to put anyone else under the radar, but put my practice under the microscope. We're trying to grow myopia. We're also trying to grow scleral lenses, dry eye
Yep.
in my practice, right? And so we're going through the different doctors at a weekly meeting. We're saying, hey, what, one of their metrics is, hey, you're supposed to touch and talk to other referral sources, as an example for scleral lenses, for instance, or vision therapy. You got to talk to occupational therapists or educational therapists this week. And we're going down the list, and I asked one of my doctors, "How many doctors did you talk to this week?" And he was in charge of scleral lenses, and he was like, "How many corneal specialists did you talk to? How many other ODs?" He looked at his phone and he counted all the text messages he sent and all the emails he sent. He said, "Okay, this week, 53." And I'm like, great, perfect. And that's what he did last week. So if you think about it, and then my vision therapy doctor did like 20, and I did like 35. Basically, so just between three doctors, we reached out to over 100 for referral sources, either existing or new, in 1 week, right? And so if you
Yep.
think about it, what are the chances of us succeeding if we did that every week? It is 1,000% likely that you'll have $1 million myopia practice, $1 million scale lens practice, and a vision therapy practice like we do if you do that, because we do the work,
Hmm.
right? So volume negates luck. So the practice is now the reason why it works for us is that I can make one of this my one thing. My partner can make the other thing his one thing. My other partner can make that thing her one thing. But really, the goal is to make one thing your one thing. And so the difference between that, so going back to the other office, not mine, is that they made it their one thing. They're probably reaching out to 20 people a week. They're doing like a CE every month. They're having workshops. They're knocking on doors. They're dropping gift baskets. They're sending emails to their other doctors in the network. They post on LinkedIn. They do that every week. Let's say like they do it like 10 to 20 times a week. Every week for next year, the chance of you succeeding are that is impossible to fail. It is
Right.
impossible. So that would be the difference, I'd say. Number one.
Yeah. I think that some people are willing to put that effort in for a week
Exactly.
and then they're upset that it doesn't work, right?
That's right.
It's that those 50 doctors were not talked to once, that they were reminded and reminded. I think that's the importance of things like, pediatricians sending letters back to a pediatrician is they don't see that message at all, but they may have just seen a note from you about one of their prior patients, and then the next patient comes in and the screening for visual acuity was poor. It's like, oh yeah, hey, right? And they've seen a follow-up email from you or follow-up letter about the patient 12 times, but then it's just that one. And had you quit sending letters, that tipping point may never have achieved. So I think it's the routine of it in the continuity
Mhm.
and continuing on. That's awesome.
You
Yeah.
need that weekly accountability. You need
Hmm.
to track it weekly. You have to host a meeting about it weekly where you talk about if it happened or not, and if not happened, why not? And that's where you lose traction unless you have that weekly meeting. Otherwise, it's just a flash in the pan. You did great for a month, and then you just tailed off, right?
Yeah.
And so that is absolutely what's missing. But once you get that cadence of it, so for anyone here listening on this phone call, on this podcast, like a lot of you guys, you might not have the energy to go reach out to like host a bunch of CEs and knock on doors and drop off gift baskets. But you have a patient walking into the door this week, today, and they have other doctors that they talk to. They got pediatricians. Maybe they've seen another optometrist. Maybe they see another ophthalmologist. Maybe they see a cardiologist. Doesn't matter, right? Rheumatologist for dry. It's someone in your office has walked through the door that they've already seen someone else, and you can ask the patient who it is, and guess what? I'll give you credit anyone that's called. You just send a letter. Yeah, if that's all you do. You did four of those a week. I'm like done. You're on your way. Do nothing more. And so you don't need to be crazy like me, where you're doing like 30 a week. But if you did five, oh gosh, you're,
Hmm.
you're ahead of 99%, and that's
That's right. Yeah. That's awesome. What is exciting for you in the myopia space in the next 12 months that either is available today or you anticipate will be available in the next 12 months? What's the most exciting thing or an exciting thing as we wrap up here? I want to know what your thoughts are.
There are three things I'll probably mention. It's debatable whether they'll be available in 12 months. Two out of three probably will be. One is, we're doing a lot more interesting work on red light therapy. And so red light therapy to treat myopia. There's also blue light therapy to treat myopia as well, by the way. So, we're afraid of blue lights, but apparently that might also help inhibit myopia. Who knows? And so we're looking into red light, blue lights. That's
We'll
interesting.
call it light therapy for now.
Exactly. Light therapy. So light therapy is one. Already we're doing light therapy with dry eye, and that's good. Second thing is atropine. Probably 2 months from today of this recording, we might have an FDA approved atropine that you can potentially buy at CVS. And the formulation of atropine won't be the Wild West anymore. It'll be more controlled. And I think that'll be much better. It will probably have better outcomes. There'll be more of a stable molecule in the one that I've talked to. Um, and so I think that's going to come hopefully in the next 12 months, hopefully in 2 months. So that'll be
Hmm.
nice. I think that'll expand access as more doctors will be able to just write the script and send them anywhere instead of setting up these special compounding pharmacies. And of
Yep.
course, myopia spectacles. Yeah, that should be next year. I think it'll be what I've seen in China, for instance. There's one of the companies without naming names. They're selling like over 1 million pairs, I think a month. Um, China's a big market though. But I think if that's happening in China, what I heard from my colleagues in China is that, it definitely affects the orthokeratology market, the soft multifocal market. for myopia because spectacles will be a big thing and it will
Hmm.
change fundamentally the conversation we have. And the ones that are already doing a lot of myopia today will change their approach dramatically. For doctors who are dabbling, also elevate the game. So all tides will
Right.
rise next year.
Yep. More kids getting treated, right?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. I know we could talk forever, but just like it having been a year and a half versus 3 months, it's been be a lot of time that we have, and I'm delighted that we were able to chat with you, a real pioneer and an expert in the world of myopia management, changing the game. And I'm super proud to call you a friend. I'm grateful for what you're doing with Treehouse and for not just Treehouse people in the myopia space, but you're helping so many others. And so thanks for being on the podcast and sharing all these great insights, man.
Appreciate being on and always good to see you, Dave.
You too, buddy. And thank you for joining us for this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. Stay tuned next time for the Myopia podcast. Hey, friends, over the last 2 years, I've been doing the Myopia podcast, and it has been an absolute joy. There has been some incredible partners that have come along board with me, and many of you have listened to those episodes and thought, man, there was some great content in there. I agree. That's why I love the podcast. So I've put together a culmination of all of the podcasts from the first 100 episodes that we've done into a book called The Myopia Files, and I'm giving it away for free. I hope you'll check it out. Go to themyopiawebsite.com and check out the Myopia Files today.
1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you for tuning in to the Myopia Podcast. If you enjoy our content, please leave a 5-star review and don't forget to subscribe for more great episodes.